So when you eat,
when you're eating our local food, you are poor.
You are poor.
You don't have money to buy.
But if they see you eating KFC and others, that's why they think that person is class and they're eating well. So it was a whole misconception. So we reintroduced the Orugali concept to not to use posters like how we have been doing it in the past, but we are actually using the actual food.
TheSpy Uganda, TheSpy Television, Andrew Irumba. I'm in Fort Portal. I've been actually attending a 2-day retreat for leaders, and it's called Kasunga Leaders Retreat. And this is the 11th, and it's organized by KRC, Kabarole Research Center. And I'm with the Executive Director of KRC, Kabarole Research Center, Mr. Sharif Muhammad. Not Muhammad Ali, this one is in Fort Portal. Now, the last note we see on our program is Orugali. And Mr. Sharif would like to explain to us what really this means when we say Orugali. Mr. Sharif, if you can give us a history about the Orugali.
Yeah. Orugali is a traditional approach that was used, and Orugali itself means a platter. Where you can have the different foods, and traditionally people will put that tray or platter, and they'll have diverse foods, and then you'll have children, also the mother and the father also enjoy the same meal, and the concept was built around diversity. But along timelines, this tradition had gotten lost because
so the African families used to eat together, sit and eat together,
and cooked, and it was actually prepared in a very natural way. They were never used to burn food, but they used to have different recipes. At the same time, they had cuisines based on different traditions, and somehow they would look at different foods that are supposed to be on the same platter, and all that would aim at fighting malnutrition. And the cases by that time were very, very low, actually very minimal, because the concept was part of the society. It was actually, people had the inner conviction in their own food that they produce, and they would actually consume it. If we try to look at the traditional meals and what we call indigenous, they are high dense foods, nutrient dense foods, meaning that all the foods actually have high content of nutrients. But because of getting to this modern life, there's a lot of exotic food that is coming in, and people are actually embracing that because they think that's being modern, that's being higher in terms of income. And because of our history that we grew up eating that food which we called indigenous, so we always associate that one to poverty. And we are engaging the women with that experience, with that nurturing that they got from their own parents, in how to prepare this food in a very traditional way that preserves all nutrients. And we try to use the same concept now for people to really taste that traditional food. And there are many people who will tell you that we last tasted this food 20 years ago, and they could not even remember how to prepare this food. So a part of the Orugali is to engage the women to start training others.
Go back to the roots
on how to prepare this indigenous food.
Go back to the
because
roots.
Many people who hear about indigenous food, they always shy away from it because preparing it is a challenge. So Orugali is a well-inclusive and comprehensive package where you look at food as an item for awareness. You're looking at Orugali as a tool for building capacity within women
in
and
the
families.
Concept, it's not about just food, feeding the stomach, feeding it, but it's about what are you eating.
What are you eating, and how is it going to improve your health? And especially for the children, it is one way of mitigating any risks associated to stunting and malnutrition.
I have gotten chance on some of your research where about 40% of the Toro people, children are stunted. Malnutrition is a problem. Is this one of the Is this one of the strategies you're using to address that issue?
We are trying to address the double burden. We have the undernutrition, but also the overnutrition. So this actually provides overnutrition. Because when you talk about stunting, you're talking about 1,000 days. But what we are also trying to do is to use the local indigenous foods and to prepare what we call a special meal that now can fight stunting. So children who can start feeding on that, the ones who are below 2 years, they can have a complete meal using our indigenous food, and that one can actually get them out of that risk zone of stunting. But for the general population, it is all about how we can be able to manage health, how we can boost our immune system, how we can fight diseases, and it's all through what you eat. And what we want actually to look at, even for obesity, if people can be able to get converted to embrace Orugali, they can actually fight obesity and overweight. So that one actually does not put them at the risk of these non-communicable diseases.
So now, in a few, can you remember some of the food items that make this concept an African or traditional Orugali meal? Those that you think without this one, it cannot be a meal?
Of course, based on the Toro tradition, there are quite a number, and it's quite diverse. And I could actually remember, but there are quite many. Of course, when we're talking about Enswiga, we know that these are greens that are very, very, very dense in terms of nutrients. We have oburo, akaro, millet, which is a very common delicacy here. We have shawe, which is a mix of cow ghee and meat and how it's being prepared. That one should not even miss on any occasion. We have yams, the traditional yams, which are very, very rich in zinc. We have the meat, and the chicken we are preparing here is not the chicken, the broilers. It is the local chicken that is being fed from, very vast feed, the greens and everything. So it makes the meat more healthier, and that one actually does not even pose a very big threat. And we have other things that we have learned also from other communities, because we are trying to not to brand diets to different tribes, but we have things like sombe, which is very rich. We have sombe, which has now been introduced, and we have also sombe here. We have also the other local yams being prepared. We have the cassava meal, which is also traditional. So we are bringing it so that people not looking at only this ought to be branded in one tribe, but looking at diets from a broader perspective.
This is an interesting one. So now, we've just finished the 2-day leaders retreat here, Kasunga 11. In a brief, could we tell our viewers what are some of those key issues that you have agreed on as a community going forward? I have heard you talk about issues to do with health, the leadership crisis, but also just right now I have heard you talking about the Kavera issue, environment, and that now wraps up our environmentalism concept.
When we talk about resilience, and if we talk about sustainable food systems, environment is very key. So we cannot have Kavera that is being littered everywhere, especially in farmlands, and we'll be thinking about a sustainable food system. We'll be talking about a resilient city, because it's a contaminant, meaning that it actually poses a very big health risk. People are still using Kavera to cook food. It poses because the toxins will always find themselves in the food and finally in our bodies. And that one also poses a very big risk to cancer. When it comes to the soils, actually the biggest enemy for the soils is the Kavera. And that one has to be fought. And it's good that we're glad that the cabinet actually approved the banning of the Kavera. We just need to have the city, and according to the resolution here, to have the city to start looking at the best ways ways on how we can stop it, the whole implementation of this resolution. So that is one of them. The other issue is that we have been having an issue of defining who a consumer is. We are only looking at consumers for people who are living either in cities or towns or even abroad, because we are marketing our food and this going beyond our borders. But we are trying to look at 80% of the people live in the rural areas, and they are all smallholder farmers. They are the ones producing the food. So we have to change the narrative that we have to consider this producer as a consumer, that they have to produce and consume their own healthy food.
Must consume the food.
We cannot have this agenda where we are only being conscious on production to produce food that is healthy for people in the West. And I'm talking about Europeans and others. We should
in the West we export the best, and then we retain the worst, and then we eat.
And we eat the rejects. We eat the leftovers.
Hey,
we should actually
we pick the best and export.
And
then we eat.
We have to change that narrative, that we have to eat our best.
I also wanted to address something to do with the pesticides. I have seen the countries that manufacture pesticides are the countries that actually do not allow products that have been sprayed with pesticide. When you talk about the products that are being sprayed with chemicals, when you are exporting, they tell you if anything is sprayed, don't bring it here.
Because they are being selfish, I can say precisely, that they are exporting to us and we are importing something that we know is dangerous. And they actually, since they know that it is dangerous, they are very, very conscious to just eat something that is contaminated with it. So the agenda is a bit imbalanced. And we have actually to find ourselves in a situation where we can also have an inner conviction to start eating food that we believe is healthy. And we have to also adopt approaches like agroecology that actually do not accommodate anything to do with chemical application. And we have to start doing more research on how we can have organic pesticides and other products that will work for us. So my request, my appeal is for research institutions to embrace organic methods, pesticides, by concoctions, but do further research to improve them so that we produce them with high level of productivity and production, and we're able to meet our own nutritional needs, and we can get the surplus, whatever we call it, to those countries. And it should be by choice.
Thank you. I wanted to advise government that allows in pests into the country, but then they supervise the export of non-pesticided products. What would you tell this government that knows that these pesticides are actually harmful to its population, but allows it anyway? But then the same government supervises you when you're exporting, not to export products that have been pesticided.
I will advise government that they need to have these regulations and being followed to the dot. Because I'm not saying that they do not know, but there are some loopholes within the system that certain chemicals are rebranded differently and they find themselves in the country. And there's also insufficient data, especially as you do importation, sufficient data about a certain product. And there's a lot that is hidden and you'll never know, and you find itself in the market. And of course, there are people bringing different products, but in disguising that they're actually safe. But in the end, they actually become more harmful to our food system. So the whole thing is that to strengthen that regulation, do more research, but also, for me, I always am an economist. I want to look at supply and demand. I think we need to kill the demand. The supply will not find any place with us. First of all, I would like to salute you for you being with us for the 2 days, but you have been so engaging, and what I can say that you are really knowledgeable and you have passion for this regional development. I just have an appeal. I know there are quite a number of issues that have emerged. We have talked about problems and problems and problems, and some people have also mentioned that they are getting gray hair because of problems. My appeal is that coming next year, can we stop lamenting and become solution providers? We should be providing solutions other than keep talking about the problems that will never end. We need actually to start co-creating, to talk among each other, to look at the available options, the technology, the experience that we have, to start looking at how we are going to be able to fix the bolts. And this is how we are able to fix many things. And come next year with another Kasunga, we should be celebrating. We should be looking at achievements that have taken us for 12 months. So it's important that we have to start thinking of other solutions, but also for people who talked about policy, we need also to look at appropriate policies or poor policies that we can be able to bring on board that can be able to support us in implementing what we are supposed to do. And as I was going to say that, of course, KRC and other partners will be also presenting a proposal to the council, because when we talk about the city and, of course, bring the two discussions together, we are talking about sustainable food system. Again, you're talking about a resilient city. There are things that we need to fix. Alex, we have been in Mwanza. You didn't see even Kavera anywhere. We can never talk about resilience or sustainable food systems if you still have a dangerous item called Kavera. People are using it to cook food in it. People are using it and they are littering it everywhere. And we cannot talk about production in the next 100 years if we do not sort out this issue. We are going to be presenting a proposal to the council, the city council, to think about a strategy to ban Kavera in the city, if not even in the region. That we should be known that if you are coming in our region, you are coming to a city, Kavera is not allowed. And we should be giving opportunities to the youth to co-create other solutions for us to use. And if we don't do that, we'll keep talking about these issues and they will never end, because through science, if you have Kavera, it will actually limit production. And now, as we are using it for cooking, the cancer cases are going to increase. So that is the proposal that we are going to be presenting, and I wanted actually to bring to the attention of the guests of honor. And KRC, of course, with support from the board and the board of trustees, we are going to be supporting this process and engaging other partners and call for their attention because Kasunga is not being taken as a project. If it was a project, it would have ended with Kasunga 1. Kasunga is a process, and a process that builds in each other. We are having now Kasunga 11. We expect more Kasungas. So in between the two Kasungas, KRC and partners will be engaging councils, will be engaging ourselves to start looking at the resolutions of the retreats and try to make proposals, and we try to engage each other to solve these problems. So we are very committed as an organization, and I hope the board is here and is listening to this, that we are going to be influencing different development partners to allow us to incorporate a number of changes, even if they are not budgeted for. And we are able to really fix our own problems. Mind you, the development partners who are coming in, we really appreciate that they are coming in to support us, but they are actually coming with a very specific agenda. They are interested in quick wins, but we need actually to solve our own problems. They are here just to support us, but the whole mantle is on us. We need to change our own narratives. We need to, first of all, to change even our own conviction to really know that this is something that we need to fix by ourselves, and then when we can be able to say, well, I think we are on a right journey. So we have that commitment. And going back to our meeting for the 2 days, of course, there are a number of discussions that have been, many issues have been discussed, and we have come up with a communique. And I want to take this opportunity, guest of honor, to go through this communique so that we can be able to present also the same issues as a follow-up in the subsequent meetings that we are going to be having with the districts. So I'm going to read as it is, and it reads communique on the outcomes of the Kasunga 11 Leaders Retreat held at the Mountains of the Moon Hotel, Fort Portal, Tourism City. That is 21st to 22nd November 2024. And the preamble is, we are the participants of Kasunga 11 Leaders Retreat convened on the, at Mountains of the Moon Hotel, Fort Portal City, November 21st to 22nd, 2024, having deliberated on the following topics. Consciousness of key actors ahead of the 2026 general elections, free and fair elections as a driver for peace, functionality of formal and informal mechanisms to harness mitigation and management of electoral-related violence for peaceful coexistence. Number 4, role of the culture and religious institutions in ensuring peaceful electoral processes and managing voter expectations for quality leadership throughout the electoral cycle. The role of conventional and online media in the electoral process with a bias on youth and women. And lastly, instrumentalization of the youth people in the electoral process, risks and mitigation measures. We resolved as follows. Addressing mindset challenges, participants recognize that entrenched negative mindsets have tempered peace efforts, impeded social and economic growth, and increased vote expectations for monetary incentives from leaders. And the recommendations were, or include, recommend to the Interreligious Council, that's IRC, to put a ban on church fundraising activities during campaign sessions. The second one was to launch broad awareness campaigns as mindset change led by all the stakeholders. To prioritize the main state change pillar under the parish development model, PDM, through district RDC's offices. Strengthen community policing structures and promote innovative voter education strategies, taking lessons from effective methods like puppet shows showcased during the retreat. Under food insecurity and malnutrition, participants highlighted the link between food security, hunger, malnutrition, vulnerability to political manipulation, with malnutrition contributing to mental health challenges. And the recommendations included promote household food production and consumption of indigenous seeds, conduct mindset change campaigns targeting food security at the community level, and strengthening informal conflict resolution mechanisms, acknowledging the limitations of formal court systems in delivering justice and managing conflict. Delegates emphasized the need for functional and impartial informal structures, and they built a number of recommendations that included to empower district peace committees and elders forum at all administrative levels, to engage cultural and religious institutions to mediate, counsel, and resolve conflicts, and to advocate for strengthened local or legal framework to deter election malpractice and violence. Under identifying and nurturing new leaders, delegates expressed concern over the absence of systems to identify and nurture leaders with integrity, and they came up with a number of recommendations that include to establish a transparent methodology for elders to recommend potential leaders, to create a regional leadership academy to train, mentor, and nurture young leaders, to establish a regional elders forum to promote peace and provide guidance. And lastly, to include culture and religious institutions to enhance accountability. Under ensuring free and fair and credible elections, after recognizing the importance of peaceful elections, all stakeholders committed to sign a pledge for peace as a demonstration of commitment, affirming their roles as peace actors, enhance collaboration and interaction between stakeholders and actors to promote peaceful electoral processes. Political parties should enhance internal democracy to promote a transparent process of identification and election of candidates or flag bearers, and political parties should also provide sufficient financial support to their candidates to reduce the pressure of financial burden. Under advocating for electoral reforms, delegates highlighted the need for an electoral system that ensures inclusivity and proportionality in government. This would minimize competition and violence. Under strengthening intercultural unity and reconciliation, kingdoms, it was suggested that kingdoms, or resolved that kingdoms should put in place initiatives for reconciliation, collaboration, and harmony between them. But participants acknowledge that youth are manipulated into violence by leaders through financial incentives because of poverty. And they recommended that train youth as peace builders through income generating ventures and dialogue initiatives. Adopt transformative thinking with a guided ideology, focus on global accepted standards, and we need to ensure proper and effective messaging that connects food and health. We need to make consumers and producers appreciate and embrace indigenous foods or traditional foods, and we need to leverage the brand of Fort Portal as a tourism city to translate it into wealth creation opportunities. Now, therefore, this communique is adopted this day of 22nd November 2024, and it has been witnessed with a number of stakeholders or leaders. That includes Fort Portal Tourism City, Kabarole District, Bunyangabo District, Kasese District, Ntoroko District, Bundubujo District, Kamwenge District, Kitagwenda District, Kenjojo District, Kegebwa District, religious leaders, and Toro Kingdom, Obusinga bwa Rwenzori Kingdom, Obudingia bwa Bwamba. I end the communique.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharif. Yeah. Mr. Sharif Muhammad is the Executive Director of KRC that has been in charge of this two-day leaders retreat, call it the Kasunga 11. When they say Kasunga 11, it means there has been Kasunga 10, Kasunga 9 up to number 1. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.